Welcome to this explainer. Today we're jumping straight into a really fascinating and honestly pretty urgent forecast about a system we literally rely on every single day. We're going to break down the Triune Harmonic Dynamics, or THD forecast. This was developed by researcher, inventor, and author Kevin L. Brown. Okay, let's kick this off with a pretty simple question about our daily routine. Think about how many times you logged into something today. You probably typed in a password, maybe used your fingerprint or Face ID, and then hit approve on a push notification on your phone, right? We do this for banking, work emails, healthcare portals, the whole shebang. It feels totally secure. But the core question this research asks is this: are passwords and multi-factor authentication really keeping us safe anymore? Or are they just giving us this false sense of security while attackers figure out entirely new ways to sneak through the front door? To figure this out, here's our roadmap. 1. The digital identity problem. 2. Building structural pressure. 3. The THD forecast window. 4. Real-world system implications. And 5. Testing the forecast parameters. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the digital identity problem. The report highlights this absolutely critical flaw called the verification gap. Basically, this happens when a system sees a valid password or a trusted digital token, but that token doesn't actually prove the real human legitimacy of the user anymore. Think of it kind of like a bouncer at a nightclub. The bouncer checks your ID at the door, hands you a VIP wristband, and lets you inside. Great. But what if you take off that wristband and hand it to a total stranger near the bar? The bouncer never checks again. The system is just trusting the wristband, not the actual person wearing it. That right there is the verification gap. So, moving on to Section 2, building structural pressure. There is a massive disconnect between the illusion of safety and reality. On the surface, things look perfectly fine. Users log in normally, and we see multi-factor authentication deployed everywhere. But underneath, the structural signal tells a completely different story. Our identity trust is highly concentrated into just a handful of big providers. Plus, hackers have figured out how to easily bypass or completely exhaust those MFA prompts. Basically, we're confusing this simple act of logging in with actual security. The THD framework points out that our systems are under severe stress from 4 main sources. First up is single sign-on, or SSO. It's super convenient to have one master key for all your apps, but if a bad actor grabs that one key, they get everything. Second is token and session theft. Just like that stolen wristband at the club, attackers aren't even bothering to guess passwords anymore. They're just stealing active, already approved sessions. Third is MFA fatigue. Picture an attacker spamming 50 login requests to your phone at 3 a.m. until you finally hit approve just to go back to sleep. And fourth, AI-assisted social engineering. Hackers are literally using AI voices and deepfakes to trick the IT help desk into resetting passwords. They are completely bypassing the tech and tricking the human layer instead. Because of all these accumulating threats, the THD Structural Pressure Index actually scores our current digital identity system at a 64 out of 80. So what does that mean in plain English? It officially puts us in what's called a late pressure phase. Our system isn't just starting to feel a little bit of weight, it is heavily burdened right now. The pressure is high, the cracks are actively forming, and the system is either going to have to adapt drastically or it's going to blow a gasket pretty soon. Which brings us to Section 3, the THD forecast window. The forecast identifies what it calls a natural structural landing period, and it places this right between July 2026 and March 2027. Now, this isn't just throwing darts at a calendar. It's broken into 3 specific danger zones tied to actual corporate and seasonal rhythms. First, late July through August 2026. This is when a lot of companies do their mid-year security reviews, right when they have summer staffing gaps. Second, October through December 2026. This is driven by end-of-year access audits, tight budgets, and a massive, massive spike in holiday fraud. And finally, January through March 2027. This is when companies roll out New Year reset policies and usually end up discovering all the fraud that actually happened over the holidays. Within that broader window we just talked about, the math actually pinpoints the absolute highest likelihood of a rupture aligning with some very specific dates in late 2026. We are looking at late October, mid-November, and mid-December. These specific dates perfectly overlap with the heaviest holiday fraud pressure and the strictest year-end security audits. If our identity boundary is already weak, the added stress of Q4 operations makes these exact weeks the absolute strongest candidates for a visible, highly public failure. Let's move over to Section 4, real-world system implications. So what does a structural release actually look like? It's not just some quiet software bug that IT patches overnight. Strong validation of this forecast looks like massive, undeniable platform lockouts. Imagine a major single sign-on outage where millions of people suddenly, out of nowhere, can't log into their workstations. Or a highly public breach where hackers completely bypass the login screen because they stole those digital tokens we talked about earlier. Another strong sign would be a major institution, like a giant hospital network or a massive university, being forced to totally reset all access for every single user simply because they can no longer trust who is who on their network. And finally, Section 5, testing the forecast parameters. Every good forecast has to have a scorecard to prove it wrong, right? The rule to falsify this prediction is extremely strict. If we reach March 31, 2027, without a major identity boundary failure or without some massive forced security hardening event across the industry, then the THD forecast is officially incorrect. It's falsified. Also, if identity-centered incidents just naturally start dropping while companies smoothly adopt stronger controls without any public panic, the forecast is considered significantly weakened. The researcher has put a firm, unambiguous expiration date on this prediction. To wrap this all up, our digital front door is just carrying way too much weight right now. We rely on centralized logins for everything from our banking to our remote work, all while attackers are actively exploiting the human elements and stealing active sessions instead of bothering to guess passwords. As researcher Kevin L. Brown states, digital identity is the new operational boundary, and the math strongly suggests it's on the verge of forcing us to adapt. The system simply cannot handle this growing pressure without a release or a major forced upgrade. As we approach this critical window between July 2026 and March 2027, we really have to rethink how we secure our digital lives. The illusion of a simple password and a quick text message code is fading fast, and that leaves us with one vital question to consider, both for our organizations and our own personal accounts. If the bouncer at the door completely fails, are you ready? What's your backup plan?